Hey everybody, welcome to Keepin It Reel with Susan
and Chalese.
Hey, we have a guest on today and we're so excited.
Yes.
She's in the waiting room. I don't know if this is recording, but if this part's recording, we just wanted to say hey to you guys before we let her in.
Yes. And
do you want to wait till she's here to introduce her?
Yes. Well,
okay.
So I actually met Staci because I was doing an interview with another associate of mine.
Okay.
And she heard the interview and reached out to me and wanted to talk about some of the things that she wanted to do. And she's actually never shared her story in public before. So I don't know if she wanted me to tell that, but I'm telling that because she's probably going to tell that.
We'll see if she tells that.
So yes,
that's why we do this beforehand.
Exactly.
And I don't know her story, so Chalese has told me, but here's what happens in my life. Someone tells me something, boom, it's out of my brain.
Gone.
I know.
This is why she's
when's
really
rugby
good
practice?
At
I know that.
Secrets.
Yeah, it's not my business. Okay, so we're going to admit Staci right now. Da, da, da. Cha-ching. Staci, hey, can you unmute yourself? And can you hear us?
Yes.
Oh,
hi,
Staci. Here she is.
Can you get it so we can see both of us?
Well, if I knew how. Do you know how?
Yes, I do.
Okay, do it.
View.
Gallery. Ooh.
Hey.
Hi. I have not ever spoken to you. I'm Susan. It's so nice to meet you, Staci. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? It's nice to meet you also.
Thank you. I'm good.
Do you know what's something funny? Just on a side note about the how are you thing. Every time I say that at my work, we have to do push-ups right now because how are you is a lazy question and we have to do better questions.
Hey, that's a lazy question. Staci, I'm gonna think of a different question.
How's your day going?
How's the weather?
Oh yes, because she doesn't live
that's a lazy
here.
question.
Yeah, which
where
is why
are
we're
you?
doing Zoom.
Where do you live?
So I'm in Wyoming. The weather right now is it's like gloomy and cloudy and just like
that's us. I love your background.
Okay, say that.
Yeah,
I was just saying.
So here's the deal. Like Chalese knows your story and she has told it to me. I can't remember. So I'm going to invite you to tell all of our viewers whatever you want about why you're on this show.
Okay, yeah. So actually Chalese did like a interview with my friend Sabrina and I reached out to her because, you know, she had gone through grief and I just felt really called to reach out to her and
that's
talk to her about what I have going on. And actually I ended up reading her book and it was like really, really helpful.
Her book is awesome.
Thank you.
So my story is
everyone buy her book. Is it on Amazon still?
It's on Amazon and actually it's on sale right now on Amazon. They marked the prices down, so get it now.
How much is it?
Goes back. It's like $2.50.
Yeah,
no, they put it down at like, which is fine because I want it's for people to get it. It's not to make money, and whatever I make off of it goes to my nonprofit anyway. So it doesn't even. So get it now. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
So Staci, so you were called to Chalese and you were called to contact her and read her book, but why? Like, I don't know why.
Yeah, I'll get okay. So I am a mother of 4. I had twins back in August and one of my twins was stillborn. So I have been, have my own grief, my own loss that I've had going on. So that's why.
So do you know I have that same thing in my life?
I think Chalese did mention it to me that you had a similar story. So yeah.
So how are you doing? It's been so that happened to me 21 years ago and you are not even a year into it. And I mean, it's it's hard. Did you know that your baby, was it a son or daughter?
Daughter. So I had 2 baby girls.
Did you know that your daughter had passed on before you delivered her?
I didn't know. So, okay, so I'll give you some background.
Okay.
So I am a birth doula. We moved to Green River, and the day that we moved into this house, like our first morning here, I found out I was pregnant. And so
Welcome to Green River.
so then I knew like immediately that I wanted a home birth because, you know, I became a doula after having my other 2, and I had really traumatic hospital births. So I knew I wanted a home birth. And so after doing some searching and contacting multiple midwives, like there were no home birth midwives here in Green River. So I did contact some midwives and was like working out, trying to figure out, you know, finding when to travel, and all of that. And so what ended up happening was like I was really stressed out. So I told my fiance, John, I told him, you know, like this is really stressful trying to find someone to travel. And so he was like, you know, like, why don't we just do this on our own? And I was like, oh, okay. And then it was like, I felt like all this relief, like, oh yeah, like, you know, and I know that there's like a lot of, I guess there's like some controversy around having like an unassisted birth or like a free birth or whatever, but I just, you know, that's what felt good to us. And like, and that's what felt good the whole entire time. And I actually did not know that I was pregnant with twins until about 30 weeks. I was
Wow.
yeah.
I knew it 10 weeks because I was so big.
Yeah. And I
was like, there's got to be something going on. I'm falling over.
Yeah, I had some suspicions, you know, but you know, it was like my 3rd pregnancy, and people tell you like, oh, you're more babies you have, the bigger you get. And so I was just like, okay, well, it's kind of suspected it.
We have a lot of the same. It was my 3rd pregnancy as well.
Oh, wow.
And I had a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old and a 2-year-old.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you not go to the doctor at all during the pregnancy?
No, and what's funny is like I did go to a midwife that like over in Utah that was like 2 hours away where, you know, my kids go to visitation over there. And so it's funny, I went to her about 18 weeks, and she's very like an autonomous midwife, which means she's just supports, you know, women's choices in the way that they want to give birth. And, you know, so she just was available for me for whatever I wanted, and just mainly just like confirmed that I was doing everything right with like my own prenatal care. So, I did see her in about 18 weeks, and I did say something because I didn't want to use a Doppler or an ultrasound because that technology does have its risks to it. And so we decided that we just felt like it wasn't necessary. And so I even mentioned to her, I was like, could you, you know, so we listened with a fetoscope, and I said something about, you know, checking for 2 heartbeats, and then we got to talking, and then like that it didn't happen. So it was just almost like I guess like serendipitous. Like it was like almost like I wasn't supposed to know that I was having twins.
Wow. Yeah.
I just feel like, yeah, like I feel like everything just kind of lined up the way that it was supposed to. And so, yeah, and then about 30 weeks, I had like my own fetoscope, and I had checked, and I was like, I hear 2 heartbeats, you know, like, and but I never really confirmed it to myself until like a little bit later on. And then when I did realize that I was actually having twins, I just was like, you know, like, I feel like, you know, our bodies are made to do this, and our bodies are made to birth babies and grow them, and our babies choose their journeys into the world. And so we just kind of just went along with the, you know, our original plan that, you know, we didn't need an ultrasound and everything was going to be fine. And I had this like, you know, I had this somehow, like I had this sense that I knew that there were 2 placentas and that they were both going to, you know, be able to like survive off of their two, you know, like, and I know there's like that
So I'm
fear
going
of,
to interrupt you. Like,
yeah,
are
go ahead.
you very in touch with yourself? Because like, as far as I didn't realize my babies had two placentas. And like, so did you just stop and take time to really go into yourself and figure that out? Or like,
Yeah, I
mean,
did a lot of,
what is that in your life? I mean, okay,
yeah.
I love you. How old are you? You look
I'm 30.
okay. So at 30, I don't know that I have that in me.
Yeah,
So I find
so
it extremely impressive that you did. So what do you like? How did you know? Like you went into yourself. I knew I was having twins. I felt that intuition, you know, very, very strong and early on, but like to be able to go, I didn't have the education you had. How
yeah.
did you know, like tell our people how you knew that? Because I feel like
So,
with stuff like this, we have a lot of hits. We have a lot of intuitive hits that maybe we just let go. So I think it's awesome that you knew that.
yeah, so like, yeah, I guess I didn't realize how like in tune I was with my body. And I know I feel like when I'm pregnant, I'm even more so in tune. So I really just, I mean, every single day I was taking baths like once or twice a day and just really just like really going inward and really meditating. And my friend Sabrina, the one that I found Chalese there, I was doing some coaching through her. And so she was really helping me like go inward. And I was dealing with a lot of just processing like past childhood sexual trauma at the time. And just like, especially like towards the end, just like visualizing my birth and just, yeah, just going really inward and just mainly just meditating and just, yeah, like connecting with my baby. And, you know, like I had this like meditation music that I would play for my belly and I'd play for the babies and just really connecting to them that way. And just, yeah, I just did.
That's cool. I did none of that in my pregnancies. I love you.
I did some of it,
Did
like
you?
mine a little bit for Danny. I think she was the one that I did most of that stuff for because, but you know what's funny about that is that my Danny, oh, bless her soul. I knew it was a girl because of all the trouble
Okay.
she gave me, but the pregnancy and everything like that, I was like, I'm going to do this like hypnotherapy birth and it's going to be amazing. She's the only child that I use drugs with.
I used it.
And I had I was just talking
Stick them
about
in
this with one of my friends. I was like, with that one, I was like, well, for one, I knew she was a girl and I did the ultrasounds and everything like that, but I knew she was a girl because of the pregnancy in and of itself. And my water broke and I didn't go into labor right away. 12 hours later, they ended up, I had a midwife, but I also did it at the hospital. I'm all about like Eastern and Western medicine meet in the middle. And so I was at the hospital eventually and they ended up putting me on Pitocin because that girl would not come out. Like I would not start contracting. So it needed to be that. And anyway.
So my first, I was like all about natural and I completely respect anybody who can do that. I am too, I don't know if I'm just like totally into my head or what it is, but I fight my body. So I was in labor forever with my first one, like 2 days. And I finally said, fine, I'm not going to do it. Like, give me medicine.
Yeah.
And within 30 minutes, he was born. So my second one, I went in and I'm like, give me medicine.
Yeah.
30 minutes, born.
Danny was, I was on Pitocin for 4 hours. And I was like, I got this. They checked me. I was at a 4.
Wow.
And I was like, I don't got this. I lost my
Oh yeah.
Before the freaking epidural even kicked in, that was crowning.
So all you women and all you men out there, we want you to throw in your birth story.
Yeah.
Like, how did you react? How did you do it? and to be accepting of the ways everyone else does it, and also men too, because you're there trying to support whoever's having your baby.
My Caleb was
hopefully.
25 hours. DJ was only 5. I thought he was going to be my easy child.
No, he tricked you.
Anyway,
He's a boy.
He's a boy, right?
Okay, go ahead.
No, you're
love
good.
that
And I'm
you're
gonna
here.
say, like, it's totally valid to like get Pitocin. I mean, because like you can't really have like any expectations of what's gonna
Right.
happen.
You have
And
no
you're,
idea
like,
with your body what it's going to be. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
your
and
body.
that's what I actually looked up. So the number of home births that are successful compared to the ones that aren't, out of every 10,000 home births, there's only 14 that aren't successful.
So did you look so has that like been an issue for you? Have you taken shit, for lack of a better word, because you did a home birth?
Yeah. So there is like free birth
Okay.
groups on Facebook, and there's one specifically that I shared my story there because I did have like some people that I was connecting with, and they wanted to know and like what was going on, and I had shared, and there were some like, I guess you like call them trolls in the group that shared my story publicly and said that I killed my baby and that like all these awful things were said about me. And I really had to do some like inner work with that, and like just like really just like standing in there and like owning my story. Like, this is my truth, because like had I gone to the hospital, could any of those people guarantee that my baby's still alive? Like, no one can guarantee that. Had I gotten ultrasounds, could they have guaranteed that? No. And I really do truly feel like if I had been going to the hospital, like my outcome, I can't say whether my baby would be here either. And I feel like I would have left very traumatized. And I actually, when she was born, so Iris, my living baby, she came out first, and then Claire, the one that had passed, she came out second. And it was actually just a really like beautiful and peaceful moment, just because I was able to create that. Like, I created the birth that I wanted. And I mean, and that's not to say that it isn't sad, it isn't heartbreaking, that I don't grieve and I don't have all this heartbreak, but I do feel like, yeah, that's how she chose to come into the world. And same with Iris, and like,
I'm sorry.
you're
I can feel all this in me, so I'm
yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Well,
So
and
real quickly before we take a break, unless you want to say something, Chalese, we're going to take a break and then come back.
Okay.
So you got shit for a home birth. You had to go in yourself, but like you didn't know. So did you know she had passed before she came out of the birth canal?
So, I feel like I was being prepared for it. Because I did have some strange dreams throughout my pregnancy that didn't make sense until afterwards. Like I had a dream that I was like in a funeral home, and it was just like, even the mood though in the dream was just very light. Like, it didn't feel heavy, and I was just like, I didn't really understand what that meant. And my fiance, like, he was working out of town at the time, so I was more worried that like something was going to happen to him.
Okay.
And then so I feel like I knew when she passed, but my brain wasn't ready to process it. And I was having a difficult time being able to tell, just because like, I don't know what your experience with twins was, but I kept feeling like, is she moving? But then I would like push, and I'd be like, and then the other baby would like push up against her, so it kind of felt like she was moving. So I wasn't 100% sure, but I had like the word stillbirth playing in my head, and I was just like, I don't want to know, and then I finally got to the point where it's like, I want to have these babies so I can like actually know if that's something that I should be worried about, and so I think in a way that I did know. I did at one point just have this, like, it was like a voice that was just like, there's nothing you can do, you know?
Mhm.
And so then I just
Yeah, I
kept,
love that.
yeah, kept going on with it. So yeah, I guess in a way I did know, but I didn't like actually like officially
Actually,
know.
no. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break
Okay.
and we will come back in just a second.
All right, welcome back to Keeping It Real with
Susan
and Chalese and our beautiful guest,
yes.
Staci. So we've just been talking about your traumatic childbirth and how you lost your second twin in at-home birth. And you were also very ridiculed for the story. And actually, you told me when we talked before that you've never really spoken about this a lot because of the fear behind it. And I wanted to add and tell you the story that I actually just heard not too long ago. And it was actually from my boss that I work with, and his wife,
What's his name?
Dr. Tran, Dewey Tran.
TRAN.
Yep.
Okay, so people can look him up, right?
Yes.
Because you talk about him a
HealthQuest.
lot.
Yes, HealthQuest, Utah.
Cool.
We are in Murray, Utah. He's amazing. But his wife actually had the same story as the two of you did. And he actually had a hospital childbirth. Everything was good. They did all the things that they were supposed to. And it wasn't until the moment that the first one was born, the second one went into like, actually, I'm not sure if the first one was born or she was like ready to. It was a girl. She got rushed to the ICU and the second one didn't make it. So they did everything they were supposed to do, and the second one still didn't make it. So
Right. Well, I'm the same. You know, my husband, he is in the
Oh, yeah.
medical field.
Mhm.
Like, what better person to have with you right there and doing everything possible. And you just never know. And
Yeah.
life is going to bring us situations and synchronicities and whatever that sometimes suck.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not about whether you chose to have a childbirth. So I'm really, really passionate about the judgments that people, especially women, put on each other. If you decide to have a home birth, if you decide to have a hospital birth, if you decide to do it both ways, whatever, it doesn't matter, because things can happen either way. And it's not fair to judge one person because of their choices. I mean, it's not like you were doing like drugs and you were a drug addict and you had a crack baby and like at
Were
that
you?
point, yeah, I mean, maybe you were. No,
I'm kidding.
But I mean, at that point, then yes, obviously it was your choices that caused things to go wrong, but you were doing everything right. And just because you chose to have a home birth rather than a hospital birth doesn't make that wasn't what. This is triggering.
The judgment's
not
hard. Like for me, it's like we all make our decisions based on our inner self,
Mhm.
our experiences from life, and where we want to take our future. And those are very personal. And nobody has walked in our shoes, know what we've been through, and can put a judgment on what someone else does. Like I've
Right.
said this so many times. People would say
Yeah.
to me, well, if my husband died or if my baby died, I would have done this. And it's
Yeah.
like, but they didn't.
Right.
You don't, fucking know
Right.
what you would have done. You don't know.
Oh,
So you made the best decisions. I made the best decisions. We all make the best decisions we can for ourselves. It's not like, okay, so I ran over my son. We've talked about this on here. And what happened with my counselor to help me push through that was like, did you want to? Did you mean to? Was that like in your plan?
right. Did you purposely
No.
do that to your child? Of
Right.
course we didn't. Like, of
Yeah.
course, like I didn't drown my son with my own hands. Like that didn't happen. Accidents, things, things happen, and it's out of our control.
Yeah.
And
So I
anyway.
want to ask you some stuff though. I'm going to get really,
Yeah, go for it.
So for me, I remember, and it's so crazy. We're having this conversation today. It's going to air in a couple weeks, but the delivery anniversary for me is Sunday,
Oh,
21 years ago.
it's 2 days.
2 days away. So I remember, and you had this happen in August. So we're in April now of the next year. So August of 2020, this happened, and we are now in April of 2021. It was extremely difficult for me. And it just caused so much anguish because my son that made it, his name's Kyle, and the son that passed away is Noah. So when Kyle would achieve things, or we had birthday anniversaries, or he walked for the first time or crawled for the first time, I was in so much pain because I wanted to see his brother Noah with him. How do you experience stuff like that?
Yeah, it's like sometimes it just comes up and it seems like really random, it's just like, I mean, even last night I was holding Iris and I was like getting her to giggle and like we were just being silly, and she's just laughing. And it's just like in that moment, it's just like, what would it be like if Claire was here too? Like what would it be like? And
it's like a ghost that's there.
Yeah.
In your mind. Well, and they could be like spiritually there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, I do journal a lot about like what I'm feeling and stuff, but yeah, it's just like, and then I often wonder, like, does she miss her? Like, does she?
So that was actually going to be my next question.
Yeah.
Like Kyle, when I would change his diaper, he'd be sitting on the diaper thing and he would look up like in a corner and talk to someone. That was not me. Like my other babies would like sit and look in my eyes and or whatever. And so Kyle absolutely had Noah with him for many, many years of his life. Not that he's not with him now. He's 21 though, so he's kind of, I don't know if he's even open to it, but they had their own little language. Like he spoke a language none of us knew. And he was literally talking to somebody.
That's so crazy. Yeah. And sometimes so, we'll like show her to herself in the mirror. And like one day John was like, I like put her in front of the mirror and she just reached out and then she like leaned her head forward and just like rested it on the mirror, like almost like she was like looking at Claire, or it's like like in the hospital, this part like really gets me, when the nurse, like, because we ended up transferring to the hospital afterwards because we didn't know what to do. So anyways, the nurses were like, let's take, we can take pictures if you want. And so we ended up setting, Claire next to Iris, and Iris.
I'm so glad you did that.
Yeah. And we were able to get some pictures, but Iris just like, she like inched her way like as close to Claire as she could. And they just like touched noses, and I was just like, like, does she like miss like having her close and like snuggling with her? It's just like those things come up. Like, I was like looking forward to that, like being able to set them next to each other and they could like snuggle each other and just having this like bond together. And just, yeah, all of that's like really difficult to I guess process sometimes.
Yeah it's I think it's a little more complicated than people give it credits for.
Yeah,
especially when you're raising
that, like, I wouldn't have chose this, like I wouldn't have chose to lose my baby, but no one is exempt from death. And there's just this thought that
You
if
say
you go
it
to the
so
hospital.
kindly. I'm so not that kind of a, like my speaking is so blunt. It's like no one gets out of it. That's what I say. You're like, no one is exempt.
Yeah. You know,
I
there's like
admire that.
thought that like you go to the hospital and the hospital's gonna save you, and then it's like, or save your baby, and that's that's the way everyone should do it, and if you don't do it that way, it's wrong. And it's like, the hospital does try to manage and control like outcomes, but in the end, like they really don't, like they can't. There's just, I mean, it just happens, and there's
So what I'm hearing from you, and tell me if this is correct, I'm hearing and feeling not only were you traumatized by your daughter's death, but to add on top of that, publicly, you were crucified. Would that be a true statement?
yeah.
So
yeah.
you had two.
And I would say actually her death doesn't feel like traumatizing to me in a way. It's like it's sad and it's heartbreaking, but I wouldn't say that it was traumatic. Like it was very like almost like beautiful and very sacred at the same time. Like, and
Wow,
I
that's
think
cool.
going
no,
to the
mine was traumatic.
hospital was actually the part that was traumatic, because I mean, there was, like when we transferred, they were wanting to do like all the interventions, like they wanted to put the the stuff on on Iris's eyes, and I'm like, no, that's not necessary, and like, because I'm like already just like in this like naturally minded, and they're like, we want to give her the vitamin K shot, and I was like, no, like just declining everything, because that's like immediately they're like trying to put this stuff into my baby's body, and the doctor told me like right there, like he was just like, well, if you leave the hospital and you get in an accident, like your baby could die if you don't get the vitamin K shot. And I was just like I already have like a baby that passed right here next to me while you're telling me this, and like,
Oh.
So let me ask you though, like, okay, so do you feel judgment for people who do have hospital births?
no, I don't. Like I support people in whatever birth that they want, and it's
Right.
like
You just don't
I
want to be judged.
Yeah. And I feel like we get to choose. And I think in my job, and this is very important to me, is that like showing women that, like these are the options, and these are the benefits, these are the risks of doing these things. And like, as long as, I feel like you should be in your power in making these decisions rather than being coerced, just like with like the vitamin K shot, where I was told, like if I don't get this, my baby's going to die.
On the drive home.
And that's, I mean, and that right there is like,
that car seat causes that. No,
right.
I'm
like
sorry.
there's
I'm being facetious. I'm a smart ass.
But there is that trauma of like, wait a minute, what, like this baby is fine. Like I'm here for this baby that's not fine all of a sudden. And so, but then it takes away from that moment and it makes it about something that could be even worse. And so I can totally see how that would be traumatic in and of itself. Like you're already like almost numb from, or like in this shock moment. I guess not. Well, like, this shock moment of like,
you're in shock.
What the hell is going on? And I'm trying to like do everything that I can, yet you're giving me things that I'm not focusing on right now, because I'm trying to be grateful that this baby's alive and mourning this baby's death at the same time. Like
it's a real dichotomy inside.
Yeah.
It just reminds me of like when you go somewhere for help, and I've had this happen a lot on many different levels, like extreme, like you were talking about, and then very small. It's like sometimes they start focusing on the stuff that isn't hope. You're like, whoa, that's not what I was asking for. No, listen to my words. Listen to me. I know you have expertise and blah, 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 but this is what I'm asking for.
Yeah, and it's not like I went into that decision of, declining the vitamin K uninformed. Like, I am very informed about, like
Well, that's your
the
job.
risks
Yeah.
and everything to that. So it's like, and it was almost like I was like treated like I was very incompetent or something because of the decisions I made. Like, and it's just like, no, actually, I'm like, I feel like I probably knew more about this birth than I had my previous births, because it's like, it's not like we ever make these decisions lightly. We don't make the decision to go to the hospital lightly. We don't make it to not go to the hospital, like we inform ourselves. And so, yeah, it's not like, yeah, I was being like negligent or irresponsible or anything like that either.
Yeah. I feel like in society, we put levels on people. And I can say this because my husband was in that medical field, right? But I see people constantly putting the like expertise doctors up here and then doulas or whatever down here because they think they have this expertise. And I mean, I say to people all the time, they're just humans.
We're all just humans.
We're all humans. And I've sat at so many dinners with doctors where they don't say this in their practice or in the room or whatever, but they're like, I don't know what to do. Like, this one is perplexing me. And so as a society, we've put that here and then we make judgment based on it. And it's just really, really interesting.
Well, and it goes the other way too, I think, because since I've worked, I have a nonprofit for kids with congenital heart disease. Every single one of them has a different diagnosis, and every single one of them has a story. And none of them are like, oh yeah, I went into to the doctor and he knew exactly what to do.
That's true. Because
not one, because because we're all so different. We're also complex. We're all human.
And I'm not putting doctors down.
Oh, no.
Like, no doctors think that. I just think you're human beings.
We're all
what I feel. So I took my son to a doctor the other day for his knee. Like, he blew out his MCL, he blew out his ACL. And someone at that office treated me very poorly, I felt like, not the doctor. So she's like, no, I listened to the doctor. And I said, that's great, you listen to the doctor. I understand you work for the doctor, but the doctor works for me.
Yep.
So you need to find this out for me. Like,
yeah.
And that's exactly it. Is like, the doctors do work for us, and especially when it comes to birth. And I feel like it comes like with anything is like, actually, like I'm taking a training right now, and one of the like webinars that we're required to watch is the authoritative knowledge in the room. And normally it's like the authoritative knowledge is like the doctors, the nurses, when actually it's like our intuition should be the authoritative knowledge, because we're the only ones that are like inside of ourselves. Like, we're the only ones that know like exactly what's going on. And then the doctor's knowledge is helpful when
absolutely. And they have a ton of knowledge. Like they do. When I think of Rick and how much he knew about everything, but like, it takes me back, and we got to go, but it takes me back. I ran over my son. We're at the hospital, right? And the doctors are telling me he's okay. I'm watching him. They're saying, see, he's not reacting to this. He's not. I'm like, that's because he's in so much freaking pain. And I said, I'm not leaving this hospital until you do an MRI of his body.
Yeah.
And he was life-flighted, So what you're saying about intuition, gut, really listening to yourself, I think a mother's intuition.
Well, and that's just the thing too, is that like, that I'm really thinking, like, if we don't question anything, like even science can be questioned. It has been questioned. That's why we're where we're at. Everything
science changes.
Exactly. Science changes. Yeah. Everything changes, and we're all different. So everything that we think we know, we really don't know until we figure it out again. Yeah. So Anyway, we do have to go. We are at time, but
Yes.
Staci, thank you so much for
Thank
being
you.
vulnerable and sharing your
Brave,
story and
courageous,
yes, all of those
and
amazing
speaking
things.
out.
Yeah, thank you for having me on here and allowing or giving me that space to share my story, because people don't ask me because I think it's because they don't want me to be sad or because it's sad or whatever, but it's no, I want to talk about her. I want to talk about what happened, and it is sad, and that's okay. We're allowed to be sad.
Yep.
That's what our last episode is about.
All right, well, thank you, Staci, and we will see you soon. Keep sharing, girl. You got a good story. All right. Bye.